And I would say from personal experience, I was a solopreneur for 14 years before I joined Blender. I'm responsible only for my stuff. This comes from being a control freak. Like, I can do all of my stuff with excellence. I can't control what other people do. So I had to have a shift in mindset to be able to come in and be part of a team. And fortunately, it's, part of the right team,
Yeah.
which makes a big difference. But yes, there are fractional CMOs who will always be happy just having kind of the consultant role. And there's a place for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to be part of an agency, you have to be looking at not just how am I growing my portfolio, but how am I growing my team.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I'm Dacia.
And I'm Daisy.
Now, today we are actually talking to our fellow seasoned marketing veterans, and we want to talk about, should you join a fractional chief marketing officer agency? There's a lot of talk about this phrase and what this role is, and it's really bubbled up basically in the last 24 months, what we've seen. Now, we've been doing this since before 2019, so we were ahead of the semantics around this, but we've been doing marketing leadership for much, much longer than that. I mean, basically the entire history of our company. But I'm excited to actually talk to our fellow peers and go through the pros and the cons and, what we've found has worked, because you're only as good as the amazing people that you bring into your fold. So for you, where do we start when it comes to, what does it take to be a great fractional CMO?
So I would say for people who are considering joining a fractional CMO agency, you need to understand there's going to be a vetting process around, is this the right fit? Because someone else is taking on some of the risk for you. So it's obviously one way to advance your career if you're, coming out of a traditional CMO position, or if you've been kind of doing consulting on your own for a while. But I would say that we're looking for some very specific things here at Blenders. If we're engaging with a CMO and figuring out if they're the right fit, first thing is obviously they need to be a leader, because a CMO is a chief marketing officer. It's an executive position. So we're talking with very smart and capable people who have to be willing and able to lead.
Yeah.
Not order takers, but change makers.
Yeah, and it does come to bear frequently when you do have a disagreement with the CEO that you're serving, or the head of marketing that is on the client side, who is your strategic partner, where they are doing things they've always done, or they're being distracted, or they've got a point of view that is in contradiction to what we believe will drive impact. And you've got to be able to navigate that and really sit in your point of view and constantly advocate for results. So I could not agree more about not being an order taker and definitely sitting in a leadership role. And it doesn't matter that you're contract or that you're fractional. It should be the same level of accountability and commitment and responsibility around we're driving outcomes, not just doing marketing to-do lists and tasks.
And it's interesting to find, as we've interviewed many, many CMOs, how many of them have actually reached the level of CMO, but they've never done strategy. They've actually just gotten there by being, consistent, staying there for a long time and doing more and more of what they've been asked to do.
Yeah.
Rather than achieving that accomplishment because they know exactly how to lead a company toward larger revenue returns.
Agreed. And it brings up two aspects for me. So if you're going to consider being a fractional CMO, especially with us, you have to be experienced in the tactics. So most of us came from a doer role at some point in our career. So we are very comfortable getting in the weeds, doing things, understanding the systems, even if we're not specialists in those areas anymore. So I think that's really important. No one should be teaching a potential CMO what is an ABM campaign, or what is messaging strategy, or how do you write a marketing plan, or what are the different types of things that you could deploy for lead gen. No. You are supposed to come to the table with a repertoire of possibilities. But that's tactical, so you still have to bring that. But I love what you're saying about strategy. You have to be experienced in strategy. Number one, documenting it, knowing how to make it useful. And we've seen this, 85 pages of things that people will never, ever look at because it was just research and analysis and paralysis and, where there's doing the research, but then so what? Like, how did you deploy it as decision-making criteria? And I like to say healthy skepticism, to be able to really get out of the weeds, get out of the opinions, get out of what people have been doing, get out of client assumptions, and really back up and go, what problem are we solving? What am I actually seeing? Because a lot of the value that our best CMOs bring is clarifying the right problem, because the client is over here looking in this direction, and that was never the real scenario of what was standing in their way. And so I like to say, trust but verify. Hello, Ronald Reagan. But truly, I think it's so important for a CMO to go, I'm hearing you, I'm in active listening, I'm partnering, I'm taking in what you're saying, and I'm an independent thinker and know how to navigate strategic thinking and strategic process.
One of the things we're looking for here at our fractional CMO agency is people with B2B experience. One of the reasons that we opt for fractional CMOs that have a B2B background is, number one, that's our specialty. We're a B2B focused organization. And number two, when we're looking for someone with marketing experience, we specifically want to find people who understand complex selling environments, who can track marketing and sales results through a long and difficult pipeline, and who understand how to tell the story around the data and the marketing reporting to show results in the kinds of industries where attribution of marketing is often difficult.
I think that's such a great point, and it's something I always want anybody who's considering working with us thinking through, because pipeline management is so different than traditional CPG or demand gen or consumer campaigns. And you really do need to have a passion for it. And it goes back to that experience. You need to have a repertoire on what does that mean? How do you align with sales? How do you have those healthy conversations? And a lot of times it's finding surprising solutions, even down to what's the definition of a lead in a B2B organization. Those things can trip people up, and you have to know to be looking for those nuances inside of what's happening in a sales driven organization is really what we're talking about. Now, that brings up another one. If you're thinking about being a fractional chief marketing officer, you had better be super comfortable with data and numbers and having P&L conversations at the leadership table, because that's what you're doing. So it's fine to look at experience and tactics and what's worked at the past, but it's not enough. You have to really be willing to document numbers, to tell the truth about numbers, to gather it, to take the time to analyze what the numbers are saying, and I believe to educate everybody about what those numbers are saying and create a cadence of data-driven marketing. And I think this is so critical. And we're going into 2025. It's absolutely ludicrous for somebody to just deploying tactics or looking at marketing impressions or marketing metrics and not being able to pull those back to financial metrics as well.
I agree with the data storytelling and being able to figure out what's the important stuff to track. And in B2B, it's often different metrics than it is in B2C.
Yeah.
You have to look in different places. You have to think, if I'm doing this marketing experiment, can I actually track what's happening as a result of it? And in B2B, it's often much more difficult than in B2C. I think one of the other things that's important to focus on if you're really wanting to join a fractional CMO agency is, do you have the personality that it takes? Now, we have CMOs with all kinds of different personalities
yes.
on our team. So it's not like there's one magic formula, but there are communication skills and abilities that are really critical. So if you know you're not strong in particular areas, great place to come and test your mettle. So you want to talk a little bit about some of the CEOs we work with that we love?
Yes, 100%. So I think you brought one up earlier around leadership. So I'm a big believer that leadership is a developed skill set that you never, ever can be satisfied with, but you've got to have that confidence to be able to lean into that, to handle crucial conversations. And I feel like that comes from a place of deep care and concerned for the people that you're serving, because people aren't always rational when they're having marketing conversations. These are very emotional scenarios when we're talking, what does this represent? Is this going to accomplish their goals? What sells for you when you're not in the room? I mean, sometimes we're talking about people's identity. And so you've got to lead with deep care for somebody. And I don't mean, ooey, mushy, gushy, I'm being your psychologist or your therapist, but I mean, that's the core of your purpose and drive, is that you are advocating for these humans and you care so much about them. They're going to do the right thing, even if it's a little bit of a tricky conversation. So I think that deep care, like, you've got to love people, and it doesn't mean being an extrovert, but you've got to really care about people and be willing to grow in that. I think that's a big one. I'm going to kick the next one over to you, because I know this one's coming up. Growth mindset. You have to stay hungry. This is not a retirement job. Like, I just want to shout that from the top of the mountains, because this is not the thing that after you've checked all the boxes, you retire and this is mailbox money. This is a very intense role. And so having a growth mindset where you're never like, oh, I've done this so much, I can stop learning. Absolutely not. Thoughts on that one?
There's no coasting when you're a fractional CMO. At the Blender, we keep clients because we get results for them. And results don't come from sitting back and seeing what happens. It comes from aggressively and proactively figuring out what's the next right thing, because marketing is a never-ending game and the rules are always changing.
Really, really well said. Now, the other one I would add is, you've got to want to be a team player. There are fractional CMOs out there, they're talented and they are lone wolves, and they are good with that. But if you're going to join an agency, especially our agency, we love sharing ideas, sharing wins, sharing learnings. But then also we've got the agency side and our talented doers. And so you've got to be great at building a team, leading a team, and being a part of a team environment.
And I would say, from personal experience, I was a solopreneur for 14 years before I joined Blender. And I had the individual contributor mindset. I'm responsible only for my stuff. This comes from being a control freak. Like, I can do all of my stuff with excellence. I can't control what other people do. So I had to have a shift in mindset to be able to come in and be part of a team. And fortunately, it's part of the right team,
yeah.
which makes a big difference. But yes, there are fractional CMOs who will always be happy just having kind of the consultant role. And there's a place for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to be part of an agency, you have to be looking at not just how am I growing my portfolio, but how am I growing my team.
Yeah, completely agree. And for me, going beyond personality, there's that personal goal alignment and like their definition of success. So being hungry, continuing to want to grow, continuing to believe that you want to create impact and are just very zealous about that. I think that's huge. But if you're a fractional CMO, there is no crystal ball around how successful you're going to be or how quickly you're going to be. So if somebody's making a transition from full-time role and moving into, you've got to know there might be a little bit of a runway. Now, we are very, very committed to getting people full into their level of capacity and earning potential as quickly as possible. But sometimes it takes 8 weeks or 12 weeks, God forbid. I mean, other times people have been full within a month, and that is a very intense, overwhelming experience.
Careful what you ask for.
Exactly. So we're constantly trying to balance setting people up for success. But I have found that having at least a little bit of financial stability, and more so the mindset of being comfortable with a little bit of risk, is important, because you're going to make risky decisions all the time by making recommendations that they've never done, by navigating things, and really by saying, I know this is going to work for you. And so I think there's this component of comfortability with risk, because you're on a stable foundation, that you don't lead with fear-driven decision making.
Very true. And I would say it doesn't hurt if you have been a fractional CMO on your own for a bit, so you know how to get clients if you have to. Most of the CMOs we work with would rather not have to go out and do the getting the client part, which is why they want to be part of a fractional CMO agency. Yeah. But it's not bad to have that as, you're able to take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, we hire self-responsible people. We're looking for people who don't need a whole lot of hand holding, or they don't need the stability of a salary job, or they could just go get a salary job as a CMO.
Exactly.
So yeah, there are ups and downs that we share as an organization, but everybody shares the upside as well.
Yeah, agreed. Really great fractional CMOs on our team. There's a huge benefit to being a part of an agency environment. So first of all, you've got to love the work. And if you're the kind that is just so excited about serving and driving impact, well, we love to talk to you, because the value proposition on the other side is you don't have to find clients. You don't have to chase clients. You don't have to sell. You don't have to do billing. You don't have to build team. You don't have to source freelancers. You don't have to pull a tech stack. You don't have to pay for your software. There are so many benefits to being a part of a team where you're stepping into a system instead of reinventing the wheel. And then you are free to really lean into your mastery and lean into the impact that you're capable of having. That makes an amazing fractional CMO with our team.
I think another thing we had on our list, and this is something that I don't think we've mentioned very often before, is our CMOs need to know how to write.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we talked about being doers and, knowing how, email system or CRM or stuff like that, but really being able to do messaging and being a good copywriter and content writer doesn't mean you're going to do it all the time for all your clients, but you better be the one setting the standard for anyone on the digital or creative team who's crafting content. You've got to be the one who nails that messaging.
100%. We do not have a single CMO that's been successful for us that was not 100% willing and constantly in the words, in the message, retooling headlines, and just really controlling how impactful the words can be. So I love that one. I agree. Like, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel like sometimes we take that for granted, but especially in B2B, oh my gosh. I mean, you never escape the importance of content. It might look very different in very different environments, but yeah, you got to be willing to really put your hands on that one. Completely agreed.
Excellent
Completely
communicator in all ways.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a CEO of a business-to-business company? Maybe you're a sales leader or a salesperson, or maybe you're in business-to-business marketing. Well, if so, I wrote a book for you, and it's called Corporate Caffeine. Business-to-business marketing is different, but there are certain predictable fundamental principles that will help you unleash your organizational potential and fill your pipeline sustainably. So you can find my book on Audible, on Amazon, on barnesandnoble.com, or any of your favorite retailers. Hope you enjoy it, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So I think, I want to move into what does it take to be successful? Like, how do we define that? And it's so funny because it's super simple. Keep clients. That basically means drive outcomes and do it so well and be emotionally mature enough that they have the confidence in you to listen to you and to put your recommendations into practice. So confidence and outcomes, but keep clients. I mean, that is the thing. And it's so satisfying to get to be there. I mean, we have so many amazing stories where a company hadn't even broken $1 million, and 4 years later, they're at 17 million and they're expanding across the country. Or, companies that hit a $45 million plateau and they had been there for years and couldn't figure out why. And now they're breaking 100, and now they're dreaming even bigger. I mean, it's just really exciting to get to be a part of that. So
it is. It is really that simple.
Yeah.
No client churn.
Yeah.
And clients sometimes do graduate, and we recognize that if they're ready to hire a full-time CMO in-house, absolutely fine. But, our sales team is bringing in the clients.
Yeah.
We're providing the freelance team, the internal marketing team. We're providing all the technology. We're handling all of the operational pieces.
Yeah.
CMO's got one job.
Exactly.
Make it work for the client.
Exactly.
Make them believers, make them raving loyal fans.
Exactly. And, I think this overlaps with some of the things that we've said. There's no set it and forget it. If you're a talented CMO, you don't think that anyways, but let's just go ahead and say maintenance mode is never really maintenance. It's constantly reading data, constantly paying attention to buying behavior triggers, constantly creating a virtuous cycle of what's next and how do we get more return on investment. I think the other things are vigilance around documentation. Again, we did not get lazy around documenting outcomes, asking questions, revisiting strategic planning, testing core assumptions, and constantly staying in that strategic focus mindset. And so for me, you're a professional. You run the process and you don't get lazy or sloppy with, how the system works and making sure that you're actually building a system. So, that I believe that drives outcomes. Yep. And it drives confidence. And so it always scrolls back to that exact same thing. But I think those are some tips around building client confidence and building outcomes, is that you really just stay vigilant around the right way to do things and a standard of excellence, that even if the client's not asking you for this, that you are constantly proactively producing, documenting, and driving outcomes.
And I think that's one of the other benefits of being part of a fractional CMO agency, is that there are the frameworks and the processes.
Yeah.
And we've seen, each CMO that comes in has a different way of doing things. And there are things that we pick up from each other, and that's one of the benefits of it. But also, everyone learns the Blender way. And there's a reason for that. It's not process for the sake of process. It's process for the sake of results.
Agreed. And I believe, and the CMOs that have been successful with us, this frees up your mastery.
Oh, yes.
Because you're not building decks. You're not thinking, what's the system? How do we onboard this client? What's the next question I need to ask? How do I document this? Nope. There are already answers to all of those questions, so that you are free to answer the really important questions about how do we drive revenue for this client and how do we help them help themselves. So I think that's important, talking about how we work. So, we already mentioned we've got a process. So if you're a fractional chief marketing officer with us, we are going to teach you the Blender way of working and processes. That means we are helping build out frameworks, templates, and tools for you to really lean more into your critical thinking. And we have an agency side of our company. So you have very talented specialists working right alongside of you, being able to execute if your client needs that, but also doing research and really supporting and fortifying. And in addition, we've got a really collaborative environment where there is no competing against CMOs. You're placed with the client where you've got experience and personality fit and strategic mindset set you both up for success instead of interviewing with that. So I think that makes us unique, but it's because what are we being compared to? So, there's a couple big, one in particular really large, and we've heard they're more of a talent staffing agency where the CMOs interview for the roles versus following a specific framework.
Yes, and it's kind of CMOs competing with other CMOs for the client pool, which is not how we approach things. We're not a headhunting, not an executive placement agency. We're a fractional CMO agency.
Yeah.
And we put fractional CMOs to work, like you said, where they best fit. But obviously that is an option, to go with a headhunting model and, cross your fingers that you're chosen. There's also the option of some of the freelancing platforms. Market Hire is one that comes to mind. That's if people are looking for fractional CMOs, apparently some of them go there. I'm not sure why they would. That's like Upwork, which is not where I'd choose an executive for my company.
No.
But it is a place where you can go and compete, again, for clients, but on a freelance platform. So you've got the headhunting version, you've got the freelance bidding platform version, and then you've got the DIY, which is what most fractional CMOs are doing. They're out there on their own, trying to run a business and serve clients at the same time. But you had another interesting observation about when people are looking at, making fractional CMO a career, something else that they're being sold on.
There's so many companies right now being like, we'll teach you to be a CMO, or we will make you successful at the bargain basement price of $15,000 or something like that. And what I've noticed is they will pretend to provide leads, and I have yet to hear a single story where that's been true. So they give you workbooks and they give you training and they give you community support, but you're basically teaching yourself through their platform to be an independent. And like you said, if you're an independent fractional CMO, you are running a solopreneur business with all the billing, all the sales, all the admin, all the tech stack, all the accountability, contracts, et cetera, and being multiple people's fractional CMO. And so there's a lot of tools out there, and they are gobbling up keywords like mad, but you've just got to be really thoughtful. Maybe there's value there. I don't really know, but that's if you've got a lot of experience and you already have a portfolio where you have written marketing plans before, and you've written messaging strategies, and you've facilitated strategic planning conversations, and you are data driven, and you know scorecards or you know dashboards. I'm not quite sure why you would buy things that you have an entire set, sometimes decades of experience where you could just do a little bit of thoughtfulness and pull these tools together for yourself. So I don't know, but it is a warning to people that are considering fractional CMO.
Very true.
Yep.
So I'd like to offer an invitation from the Blender. If you are an experienced, growth-minded, and driven B2B CMO, we'd love to hear from you. We're always looking to grow our network of fractional CMOs. Our business is booming, our agency is growing, and we need you.
At the end of the day, our vision statement is we envision a business world full of meaning, connection, and prosperity for all. And we take this extremely seriously. And so if you are looking for meaning, connection, and prosperity, a new level of that in your business life, in your personal life, we are definitely going to be excited to chat with you. So thank you guys so much. Hope you got something out of this. And we're looking forward to talking with you. Onward and upward.